My fiance's father asked me to sign a financial agreement before the wedding that his daughter knew nothing about. My name is Jordan, and I have been with Natalie for 4 years. We met at a mutual friend's birthday, argued about a movie the entire night, and somehow ended up exchanging numbers. She is the kind of woman who remembers the names of every waiter who ever served her. She leaves extra tips in cash. She still calls her grandmother every Sunday. I knew very early that I wanted to marry her. Her father, Robert, is a different story entirely. Robert is the kind of man who fills every room he enters with a particular kind of silence, the kind that makes you sit up straighter without knowing why. He built his wealth in commercial real estate over 30 years, and he carries those 30 years in his posture. He was always polite to me, but polite the way a locked door is polite, technically not rude, just closed. We announced our engagement in November. Natalie cried, her mother cried. Robert shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, son." And it was the first time he had ever called me that, so I told myself I was reading the coldness wrong. I told myself he was simply that generation of man who shows love through actions, not warmth. Then 3 weeks before the wedding, he asked me to meet him for lunch, just the two of us. I thought it was going to be a toast, maybe a speech rehearsal, maybe the watch from his own father that he wanted to pass down. I wore a good shirt. I ordered water and waited. He slid a manila envelope across the white tablecloth. Inside was a 12-page document. I am not a lawyer, but I have rented apartments and signed enough contracts to know what I was looking at. It was a financial agreement, specifically a post-nuptial style arrangement drafted to function before the wedding, outlining how assets would be divided if Natalie and I ever separated. It included a clause that any business interests she developed during the marriage would remain solely hers. Another clause that restricted my ability to make joint financial decisions above a certain threshold without his written advisory input for the first 5 years. I looked up from the paper. Robert was watching me the way I imagine he watches deals. I asked him one question. Does Natalie know about this? He said, "This is between you and me. It protects her." I closed the envelope. I set it back down in front of him. I told him very calmly that I appreciated his desire to protect his daughter, that I understood he had spent decades building something and did not want to watch it become vulnerable through a son-in-law he had known for 4 years. I said I genuinely understood all of that. Then I told him I would not sign anything his daughter had not read. He said the document was standard. I said it may be, but it was not honest. He said Natalie did not need to be stressed before the wedding. I told him she was going to be my wife, not a person I managed information around. He looked at me for a long moment, then he picked the envelope back up and put it in his jacket. He said, "I needed to know what kind of man you are." I did not know what to do with that, so I just said, "Now you do." I told Natalie that evening, all of it. She was silent for almost a full minute, then she called her father. I will not share what was said because some things belong to a daughter and her father and no one else, but she was on the phone for 47 minutes, and when she came out, her eyes were red and her voice was steady. She said, "He told me you passed." I asked her what that meant. She said, "He said every man he ever respected refused to do something behind my back. He said the last one who tried it was my uncle, and they haven't spoken since." I sat down on the kitchen floor. I don't know why I sat on the floor. Sometimes a thing just takes your legs. We got married 9 days later. Robert danced with Natalie first, then walked over and danced with me for exactly one song, badly and completely on purpose. I love that old man. I really do. Edit. Yes, I cried at the dancing multiple times. Move on.